All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on advanced threat protection with Office apps. My name is Sriram. I am a program manager in the Office security team working on threat protection in Office clients. So think Word, Excel, PowerPoint, sometimes Outlook. Thank you all for being here on a Friday during lunch. I want to do a quick show of hands. How many of you in the audience sort of actively work on security day to day? Oh, very nice. Okay. Might be a sensitive question, but how many of you think security in Office is all about the patches you get every month that you have to keep track of? It's just about the patches, okay. Anybody think security in Office is all about applying labels and IRM and protection? Oh, cool. I don't know why I'm doing this session then. Okay. All right. So I had this whole intro prep before coming to Ignite about, digital estate, productivity strategy, digital transformation, security strategy. And then, having spent the week here at Ignite, I decided to scrap all of that. I mean, it's a Friday. You've been here a week, so you've heard enough of that. So instead, I'm going to start my session with a story and a video. And this is not a flattering video. This does not make us look good at all. So our story begins. For our story, imagine you're the IT administrator at Contoso working on security. And you have a coworker called Bhanu. We'll be coming back to Bhanu a lot. Now, for this story, Bhanu works in finance, and he has a child in preschool. So our story starts on a work morning, 9 a.m. Bhanu comes into work. He's signed into his desktop. And he's at work, but like most of us, he's doing some life on the side, so he's managing his life. So he signs into his personal mailbox, and he sees an email that looks like this. It's asking him, hey, this is from your school. Your child's tuition is due. ACH forms are out of date. You need to fill these out. Turn them into the school ASAP. And so Bhanu goes into a crisis. I mean, am I a bad parent? He starts to think. So he needs to go solve this. Well, little does he know that this is a phishing campaign that's targeting Contoso. So let's see what happens. So Bhanu has downloaded this file. He's opening it up. And Word opens this file in something called Protected View. Now, Protected View is a feature that's shipped with Office. It's this sandboxed environment for isolating untrusted content away from the machine. There's very little privileges, so even if there's an attack inside this container, it's sort of isolated and protected. But that's what it means to us security professionals. To Bhanu, this is like a mode he encounters from time to time. It's read-only. There's a helpful button at the top, which he can click. And this is a form. He has to edit it. So he's going to click that button and start to edit. So Word opens up now outside of Protected View, running with Bhanu's privileges. He sees some weird error messages. Now, this is the malware doing its work. And he starts to fill the form. He doesn't think anything's wrong. Now, as he continues to fill the form, he starts to see some weird stuff happening. The icons on his desktop have changed. He's not sure what's going on. He goes and checks out his Explorer. So the other file's gone, but this file I'm working on is still there. He goes, checks his documents folder. Those files seem weird too. They have these weird extensions. He has a sinking feeling. He knows what's going on. He doesn't want to believe it. He thinks maybe something's wrong with this document, so maybe if I close it, it'll all get fixed. Nope, didn't happen. And then, in a few seconds, he's going to get hit with the ransom note. And his fears have been confirmed. So now Bhanu knows he's been ransomwared, and his entire morning, possibly the rest of his day, has been upended because now he has to unravel this mess. And as the IT administrator at Contoso, so is yours. So is your day gone. Now, Bhanu should not be in this situation, and neither should you. And with Office 365, We are constantly working to ensure that that is the case. And I want to use this session to talk through how Office 365 applications are constantly evolving to give you security value beyond those monthly patches for vulnerable software that we're shipping. Constant security value that grows, not just over time, but also based on the actions you can take. Starting with keeping your Office 365 clients current, deploying them first and then keeping them current. Security value you can take advantage of with some of the solutions we have to be able to customize the configuration of Office, to reduce attack surface and make your environment more secure. And finally, with Microsoft 365, unlock advanced protection by having Office integrate more tightly with the rest of the Microsoft threat protection stack. Let's get started with security value you get right out of the box. So you're doing deployment, you're keeping your Office clients current. What value do you get just by doing that? A lot of the work here, a lot of the updates that go in here are Office taking advantage of the latest platform mitigations, deprecating old vulnerable components, and then adapting our product defaults to keep pace with the modern threat landscape. The work here is very subtle, if not invisible to you and your users, but nevertheless, it's very foundational. Because what it means is when attacks are discovered, your users are protected out of the box without you having to do anything. And I want to share two stories here. The first one started in June. Wired magazine published an article about attackers abusing Power Query to deliver exploits to Excel. Now, under the cover, this campaign was abusing the Dynamic Data Exchange Protocol, or DDE, that Excel supports. And DDE, the DDE vector, has been known for a while. Now, this attack, when it was discovered and disclosed, would not have been effective against users on Office 365, because back in November, Excel for Office 365 made a default change to block Excel from launching arbitrary applications via DDE. So if I have any Office security enthusiasts in the audience, you might remember me demoing this at Ignite last year, which we've since shipped. The second story is more recent. It's in September. We received a report of a vulnerability in Internet Explorer being exploited by a nation state abusing functionality in Word. This functionality being abused was using Internet Explorer under the covers, and so attackers were just using Word as a container to package the exploit and send it to victims. Again, this attack, when it was discovered and disclosed, would not have been effective against users on Office 365, because back in March 2019, Office for Word moved away from the vulnerable edge control to the more modern, secure edge control for the functionality being targeted. So essentially, the vector the attackers were using for that exploit was no longer available to them on Office 365 clients. And again, these are just a few examples of the constant security work that's going under the covers to stay ahead of the curve and give you protection. And we're going to continue to keep working in this space, and you'll hear more of it every year from us at Ignite. Now, security out of the box is great. It means there's less for you to do. But we understand our customers also want the flexibility and control to be able to configure how Office behaves within their environment to better suit their security and productivity needs. And Office has enabled this through a rich set of policy controls, including security policies that can allow admins to configure how they want Office to behave. Now, to help navigate this set of security policies, Office has traditionally published security baselines, which is a set of recommended policies and their settings. And we recently published a new baseline for Office 365 back in September. Now, the security baseline introduces some new policies But more importantly, it also broke down the baseline into multiple components, starting with a core baseline that has a set of policies that can be deployed to the enterprise with low productivity impact, and a few add-ons that are key security policies, but they can have a significant productivity impact when deployed without the proper level of testing and vetting. So think of settings like controlling macro execution. Think of settings like blocking old legacy file formats in Office. Those need a level of due diligence before you can actually deploy. I'm going to talk about how we're helping you with those two. So quick show of hands, how many of you are aware that this baseline was published more recently? And how many of you are actively operationalizing it, deploying it within? Okay. Well, hopefully, for those of you, who are in your journey or about to start, what I'm about to say next should be very exciting. So policies and baselines are what we've always done for years. And we publish a baseline periodically. Policies keep getting added and removed. There's nothing new there. But with Office 365, we are fundamentally evolving the policy management workflow to become more simple, more intelligent, and better suited for the modern workplace that we are all part of. And we're doing this with two new services that we've shipped this year: the Office Cloud Policy Service and Security Policy Advisor. Now, the Office Cloud Policy Service enables you to manage policies for your Office clients no matter where they are. They don't have to be enrolled, domain joined. They could be anywhere. And now, on multiple platforms as well. And Security Policy Advisor helps you take the guesswork out of your policy management to give you tailored recommendations for security policies you can apply to your environment with low risk to user productivity. So let's walk through a demo of how Office Cloud Policy Service and Security Policy Advisor can help you, A, deploy a baseline, and B, also deploy some of these tricky policies that can have an impact on user productivity. So for this demo, I'm the admin at Contoso. I'm really worried about the finance department. They're a bunch of cowboys. I want to go secure them, lock their Office 365 applications down. And I'm also interested in deploying a few more policies around macro execution, maybe a few legacy files, because I've read that there are threats that can be abused through those vectors. Now, I start here in config.office.com, which is our new portal for administering Office clients, Office 365 clients. Now, this portal can be accessed by the global administrator, security administrator, and the Office apps administrator. So I sign in, and in config.office.com, I can deploy configurations of Office. I can create deployment configurations to push Office applications down to my client machines. I can also do policy management. And for this demo, that's what we're going to do. So get started with policy management by first creating policy configurations. A policy configuration is essentially a container of policies that you want to target at a group of users. So in this case, I'm going to get started with the config, give it a name, choose an assignment. Here I'm assigning it to a group of users. There's another assignment that you can check out other related sessions to know more about, but these apply to Office Online. I'm going to choose the finance group. And now we'll give it a few seconds. You can start to browse through the full list of user-based policies that Office supports. So think of GPs that you used to traditionally configure. All of those user-based GPs are now available to you in this portal for you to review and configure. But what's even better is before, when Office Cloud Policy Service was being used, our customers who wanted to deploy security baselines had to go through a very painful process. This makes policy management simple, but there was still a lot more left to do. Customers would have to keep the baseline on the side, locate each policy, find it here, find the value, and configure it. Now we've added updates, which are in preview with customers, for you to be able to go through this interface and quickly filter just the policies that are part of the baseline, click into each one to review what the baseline values are, and adopt them, all just with a click of a button. Now, there's more we can do here, and we're going to continue today to make this better. But this provides you a more simplified way to get started by adopting and deploying a baseline to your users. So I'm going to git create. Now my policy config is created. Now, what this means is, as soon as users in your enterprise, in your finance group, sign into any Office 365 client, ProPlus clients, those clients are going to check in for policy, and the policy is going to flow down to them. So think they're in WVD environments or virtualized BDI, wherever they are. As long as the client has network connectivity, the policies are going down. But the value doesn't stop there. Now, you see that there are some additional recommendations, and I'm curious. I want to see what's there. So here I'm taken to an interface where I'm given even more policy recommendations. You remember those tricky policies I talked about. You want to configure how to restrict how users in your enterprise use macros. You want to block certain legacy file formats. But you're worried about the productivity impact. You're not sure who this is going to break. Now, before Policy Advisor, in order for you to go operationalize a setting like that, you have to go through a significant amount of testing, go through your rings, and wait. If you don't receive any complaints, maybe that's your only signal, you go to your production, and even then you're not assured about who this policy is going to impact. But with Security Policy Advisor, Office 365 does all that work for you. As soon as that finance policy config is created, the service starts to analyze how Office is used by users to generate these customized set of recommendations that you can deploy. It's essentially done the work of analysis and testing for you beforehand to give you the data you need. So here, I'm interested in restricting macro execution for Word. See, this is giving me a recommendation to block macros in Word in Office files from the internet. Now I can click into that, and I get even more detail. I get information on why this recommendation is being made, what is the threat. If I have Office 365 ATP, Policy Advisor is able to pull in information to tell me about which users in finance are actively being targeted by documents with macros, and that ATP is detected and stopped. So giving you a sense of the actual risk your users are facing. And finally, more importantly, giving you the estimate of what the impact of deploying this policy could be. So how many users are using this? How many users am I going to impact by deploying this policy? So think about having to take this decision through a change management process. All of the information you need is right there for you to make the justification, even provide data on why you want to go make this change. So I like this. I'm going to apply. And more recently, I also read some articles about how SLK files in Excel could be abused to target users of Excel. And I'm thinking, SLK files? Who in my enterprise uses SLK? Well, you can answer that question now with Policy Advisor. We have new recommendations in preview for blocking old legacy file formats from being opened in Office. So here I have a recommendation for blocking diff and silk files. This is a policy that Office supports. But now with Policy Advisor, you get that same rich data. You get data on what the risk is, who the impact is. Maybe there are no threats. So I like this too, and I hit apply. So now, with a couple of clicks, I have taken action against class of attacks through policy. But that's my view as the admin. Now let's switch over and see how this looks like for your end users. So again, here we have a simulated desktop that represents Banu's machine. You know, if you remember the video, this looks exactly like that. Now, Banu has this form that he's going to open, but let's imagine for a second that this attack is now using macros. If Banu opens this file, it's going to open in protected view. It's a suspicious file. We know what Banu is going to do. He's going to hit enable editing. And then as soon as he does that, he's not given what you expect. He's not given any option to run macros because you've done the work to deploy policies down to him, knowing that he doesn't have any use for macros in Word, to block macros. He's given a notification that macros are disabled to keep him safe, and if it impacts his day-to-day work, he has the opportunity to report impact back to the admin. So giving that feedback, if he really thinks he needs to get this to get the job done. But he still has no way of enabling macros from this interface. And if Bhanu does click report impact, that signal now comes back to you in this interface, so you get a constant report of how this deployed policy is doing within your enterprise, getting end-to-end visibility for you to be able to be confident that these security decisions you're making are having a positive impact, but they're not having a negative productivity impact. Both Office Cloud Policy Service and Security Policy Advisor are now generally available. Office Cloud Policy Service is available to customers with Office 365 ProPlus and Business, and Security Policy Advisor is available for customers with Office 365 ProPlus. They're both available to customers on the public cloud, with future availability coming for these other environments. And we're constantly working on the service to improve, make it more simpler for you to be able to stay up to date even on your security baselines, and continue to add more intelligent recommendations so via policy, you're able to customize the security for your enterprise environment. So I've talked about a few capabilities that are available today that you can start to take advantage of. Some of them you don't even have to worry about. You just keep your products up to date and you're getting the protection. Now I'm going to talk about things that are coming. How you can unlock, with Microsoft 365, more advanced threat protection by integrating Office with the Microsoft threat protection stack. Now, we started to do this through safe links in Office documents, and we're extending it even further. So just a quick primer on Microsoft threat protection. So MTP represents the aggregation of security solutions at Microsoft that protect your digital estate, starting from your user identities all the way down to your infrastructure. And they're all being fed and feeding signals to the largest repository of threat intelligence that Microsoft has, which is the Intelligence Security Graph, which processes to the tune of trillions of messages every day. This truly represents the most comprehensive view Microsoft has on what is happening in the threat landscape. And now, what if Office can both consume as well as contribute back to the Intelligence Security Graph to give our users the most advanced protection against threats that are happening right now in the threat landscape? That's what we're going to be talking about in this section. Now, before doing that, I want to illustrate that in the context of the story we started this session with. So let's do a quick recap. We have Bhanu, who works in finance. He's got this email. It's asking him to download a form and fill it out. He goes into crisis. And the first thing that happens as soon as he opens the file, it opens in protected view. Office is trying to keep him safe. So it's a contained environment, but it's a read-only view. Now, there are two things that are happening here, that are going on here when he opens this file. Bhanu is making a trust decision. He's making a risk decision, maybe unconsciously, between security risk and his need to get a job done, his productivity. And maybe the decision is always going to be, I need to get my job done. And that's what it's going to be. And the second thing is, when he is making this decision, there is no help. It's all on him. So you may have disseminated lots of training, had your users sign up through every training every 6 months, be suspicious of attachments and links. But in the heat of the moment, it all comes down to him remembering it and using it. And now multiply that with every user in your enterprise having to make decisions like these. Like I said, Bhanu should not be in this situation. So let's walk through how, with integration with MTP, Office is able to step-by-step improve this situation to protect Bhanu from this attack, but also enhance his productivity in situations like these. Now, we're starting that by first getting Bhanu some help. And we're doing that through a new feature we're working on called Safe Documents that verifies documents that open in containers like Protected View against the Microsoft Threat Protection Stack to determine if they're malicious before users are allowed to make the trust decision and open them outside a container. Now, let's look at a demo of this in action. I'm going to switch over into this other VM, which is also simulating Bhanu's desktop. He has this file again. He opens it up, just like he wants to do. Again, Office is opening this file in Protected View. But this time, something is different. He doesn't see the traditional Protected View prompt anymore. With Saved Documents, Office is now verifying this document against the Microsoft Threat Protection Stack for the latest threat signatures and signals to determine if it's malicious. And if it is, the file is quarantined inside the container, not allowing him to open it. So there is no trust decision for him to make. He's being informed, and he can do the right things moving forward. And if the document is not malicious, then Bhanu is informed, given the all clear, and then he can do what he wants to continue editing or do any other jobs he wants to do. Now, Saved Documents is currently in preview with select set of customers. And if you're interested in onboarding to the preview, please follow the link or the QR code to get in touch with us. And we'll be happy to get back to you and onboard you. Now, helping Bhanu make the right decisions is great, but what if we could go a step further? One of the reasons why Bhanu is in this situation is because he encounters documents like these a lot. Not all of them are going to be bad. And he has jobs to do, and he has to make the same decision on every one of them. But what if Bhanu could stay productive inside an isolated environment, get his jobs done, but also be secure? And what if the security of that container is enhanced to a level that makes it much harder for attackers? Using the same technology that Microsoft uses to isolate our server workloads in Azure. That's what we're doing, currently working on, by adding support for Application Guard in Office. Application Guard is the isolation platform that ships with Windows 10 that uses virtualization and Hyper-V to isolate untrusted content. Now, let's look at how Bhanu is protected from attacks, but he's also at the same time not bothered with having to make decisions. Now, I'm on this physical machine, which is also simulating Bhanu's desktop. I have the same file in my downloads folder, and Bhanu is going to open it. But this time, his experience is going to be different. So the file is opening up. It's a transparent experience to Bhanu. And now it's opened up in an isolated environment. He gets the same warning as before, which the malware is trying to do. But this time he doesn't see any yellow bars, having any decisions to make. And what's more, it is not even a read-only environment anymore. But what Office has essentially done is take that file and now put it into Application Guard. And now Bhanu can do what he wants without skipping a beat. He needs to fill this form. Sorry. He's going about filling all the details. Well, what's happening behind the scenes is the malware is actually executing in the container. It's enumerating every file that it can encrypt, but inside the container, but none of Banu's files on the machine are actually getting touched. Banu's clueless. He's just going about doing what he needs to do. Okay, he says, okay, these details look good. I'm going to try and print this file. Great, he's continuing to get some weird errors that the malware is doing its work. He sees his print experience. Doesn't look any different. He's able to print the PDF. All right, here you go. He says, okay, I'm going to put this on the desktop. But all the while, the malware is still running. And for proof, right there. The malware thinks it's running on a machine, is doing its job, but it's all in a container. It's banging its head against a fully isolated container. Now, Banu is confused. In fact, maybe it looks like the malware is also confused because the date is 1034. All right. But Banu's confused. Oh, my God, what's happened? But when he looks deeper, none of his files on his desktop, in his documents, none of them are touched. And just to give you proof the malware did its job, I'm not showing any fancy prompts. Okay. There was a configuration where we would have exposed the file to get encrypted, but we didn't do that in this demo. But this is the real malware actually running, but within a contained experience. And Banu didn't have to make any trust decisions. This is the end user experience. But you, as the security admin, are also getting an enhanced visibility and audit experience of what is happening on Banu's machine. Because whatever is happening inside the container is being fed back to the Microsoft Defender ATP threat protection stack. So you, as the security admin, can now go to the Windows Security Center. You get alerts of what's happening from within the container. And in this case, you've just received an alert that a certain CVE has been detected on one of your users' machine. You can drill into looking at that and look at machine timelines. And you can see, as you scroll down, that application guard is actually containing the attack. So you can get peace of mind, even though you're seeing the full attack kill chain, that application guard has contained this attack. And now you can use the indicators from this incident to hunt for more instances of attack within your environment of whether this file is trying to target other users. Can we wait until the end of the session, if you don't mind? Thank you. Oh, sorry. So let's talk a little bit more about the isolation. So Application Guard is the new virtualization-based sandbox that ships in Windows. And what it essentially does, it isolates away untrusted content or applications in its own micro virtual machine, providing kernel-level isolation. So even if the malware now has full code execution across the stack, it still has to jump over the hypervisor boundary to be able to touch anything on the host machine. And this is a boundary that Microsoft defends with a bounty of about $250,000, $250,000. So what essentially, Edge is the first application to be using Application Guard for isolation, and now Office is adding support for it. And the way we're doing it is enhancing our protected view experience. So essentially today, if you as an admin are wondering how this would look like in my environment, if your users are opening files that would open in protected view, those same files will now end up in Application Guard. So if you have a trusted file, something coming from your local network shares or the user's local disk, or from SharePoint, from your own tenant, those files won't trigger in Application Guard. They will continue to open in Office normally, giving users the full experience. But if there are untrusted files, for example, attachments you receive from personal mailboxes or from random sites on the internet, Office will then use Application Guard as its sandboxing solution to isolate those documents. And there's also a long-term benefit of the productivity enhancements that you see. Now, Bhanu no longer has to make these decisions constantly. If there are jobs he can do within the Application Guard container, he can continue to complete them all within the container without having to make any trust decisions. And with both Application Guard and Safe Documents, Office is now not only consuming from the Intelligence Security Graph, it is also contributing signals back to the Intelligence Security Graph to complement the blind spots that continue to exist in your enterprise. For example, think of the scenario I just walked through. The mail came through on your personal mailbox. So it's not getting the protection from things like safe attachments or any scanning solution that's looking at your Exchange flow, because this file is completely bypassing that. We have Application Guard in limited preview right now with a select few customers. If you are interested and would like to sign up and learn more, follow the QR code or the link to get in touch with us, and we'd like to get back to you. Now, I've talked about two solutions today that we're working on. Now, these two solutions can work alone, but they also work well together. Now, today what you have is, with Protected View, users receive these untrusted files. They go into Protected View, and users have to make a trust decision. In the first step, users now have help in making the right decision to take documents out of a secure container with Safe Documents. And with Application Guard, Office 365 is upgrading its sandboxing isolation solution to give users a more richer experience, but at the same time also taking the isolation to a higher level. And when a user, say Bhanu, really wants to open a file outside the container, outside Application Guard, because he has a job to do that he cannot do inside the container, Safe Documents will continue to verify the document to give him that safety blanket, protecting him as well as your enterprise. Now, I've talked through a set of investments. Some of them are available today. Some of the work is always ongoing, so there's no end dates. And the key things I wanted to call out here are, with Safe Documents, we're targeting to make that publicly available in spring 2020. And with Application Guard for Office, we're targeting to make that available to customers on Office 365 in summer of 2020. Again, I want to come back to this message that Office 365 continues to provide you with the most, it's constantly evolving to give you security value that grows. And this is value that not just grows over time, but it can also grow by actions you can take. And thanks to Microsoft 365, you have the opportunity to now unlock, integrate Office, Windows, and ATP together to give you the best protection you can get against the modern threat landscape. Few takeaways, key ones. I think you've heard the first one enough already, but I cannot stress it enough. Deploy Office 365 and stay current. That's the best thing you can do, and there's a lot of goodness that comes with it. Check out the new solutions we have for Office 365 customers for you to be able to customize the configuration of Office and reduce your attack surface even further. And if you have any feedback, reach out to us. And finally, we have two exciting solutions in the works, and if you're interested in getting to preview them, please reach out to us. We also have a few related sessions where we talk about these capabilities. We're at the end. This is the last session, so I'd say grab them on video. And I wanted to, again, thank you for coming on the last day of Ignite, the last breakout session, and during lunch hour. So I'm really grateful.